Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're going to be talking about It, Welcome to Derry, which is the prequel series coming out at HBO Max October 26th. Just in a few more weeks, right around Halloween season. Perfect timing. This is going to be 8 episodes long. But by the time you're done watching this video that I'm going to show you guys, we're going to go through every connection from chapter 1 and 2. We're going to talk about the timeline. We're going to explain it all. Because in chapter 1 and 2 was 1989, 2017. This season 1 will be the main focus of 1962, and with this being 3 seasons long, each season will be a different timeline. I'm going to explain all that stuff to you. I'm going to talk about the Bowers family and the Hanlon family. We all know Bowers, Henry Bowers from the chapter 1, chapter 2, the bully, and of course Mike Hanlon, the black kid that got picked on by Bowers. All of that family connection will be explained. I'll be going through the 2 teasers and the 1 trailer. I will break it down scene by scene. I got a lot of spoilers, Easter eggs, and I'll be talking about the origins of Bob Gray, which is what Pennywise pretty much got that human form from. And of course, I got so much more, so please stick around because we got a lot of stuff to talk about for It, Welcome to Derry.
Derry started as a beaver trapping camp.
Still is, am I right, boys?
Alright, like I said before, this is going to be a connection with chapter 1 and chapter 2. The 1990 It miniseries, the one that, with Tim Curry, directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, that has nothing to do with this timeline, canon, so to speak. The novel, yeah, there's going to be some stuff from the novel, but this is also going to go to direction that isn't in the book. So, of course, we're going to take a little bit from the book, but none from the miniseries. But the rest of it, chapter 1, chapter 2, that is going to be the main focus. We're having all the connections from that. And speaking of chapter 1, chapter 2, the director, Andy Muschietti, and his sister, Barbara, which was the main producer, they directed chapter 1 and chapter 2. They will be coming back. So right now, I'm going to talk about what is coming back that we had in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So Andy's going to direct the first 4 episodes of the 8. He's going to direct those, and then, of course, other people come in and direct it. But he's going to be the main producer. Also, we all know that Bill Skarsgård that played Pennywise in chapter 1, chapter 2, he is coming back. We did see a scene in chapter 2 of him playing Bob Gray. I'll get more into Bob Gray down the road, but it's nice to have him back because we already saw what Bob Gray looked like from 1908. And it's going to be really weird if we had a different character besides Bill Skarsgård. So I'm glad he's coming back. And also another huge thing is it is being filmed in the same city in Canada that they filmed chapter 1, chapter 2. So you have the same director, same producer, same Pennywise, in the same location, with the same backing because it's Warner Brothers. So you're going to get all that good cameras. Everything's going to be looking great. So it's a good head start for now. And also coming back, well, not necessarily, but their family line. So we all remember Mike Hanlon, Henry Bowers. Those guys are coming back. Not Mike and Haley themselves, but Mike's father and grandfather. Because remember when Mike was introduced in chapter 1, he was with his grandfather Leroy. That is a character we see already in the trailer for this series. We're going to see a lot of it. So yeah, the Hanlon we see in here, it is Leroy Hanlon. That is Mike's grandfather that I just talked about. And the young boy is Will. So that is Mike's father. We all know that Will eventually dies from a fire. So most likely he is going to survive all of this. So that's somewhat of a spoiler already. In the Bowers family, I'm going to get deep into the Bowers family here in a little bit. But we all remember Henry Bowers, and of course his dad was the police. In this prequel series, we get Clint Bowers. He's the chief of police. So that is also a connection that I will dig further into it. And that's also coming back from chapter 1 and chapter 2. So now I want to talk about a lot of new stuff that we have not really seen yet. And that is the Black Spot, which takes place in 1962, which is the main focus of this timeline. Like I said, this is going to be 3 seasons. Chapter 1 will be 1962. Second season, 1935. Why 27 years? Because that's Pennywise's life cycle. Third season, 1908. And I think 1908 is going to be a big part of this whole TV series. I already know we're getting some flashbacks, and I'm going to talk all about that stuff, so stick around for that. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the Black Spot is this was 237 days of shooting. That is a lot of shooting days, which means they're moving around a lot. You're going to see a lot of different point of views from the natives. I can see flashback of the 1908. This is awesome. I can't wait to dig into this, but let's talk about the Black Spot.
Have you ever heard of a staph infection?
Also, staph infection.
So unsanitary. This is literally like swimming inside of a toilet bowl right now.
So what is the black spot? Well, there's an army base nearby Derry, and of course you have your black soldiers. Remember, this is 1962. What's going on in 1962? Well, you're in the middle of the civil rights movements, because that started in 1954 and in 68. Malcolm X was killed in 65, so you're in the middle of that. Jim Crow laws, that is the laws of like desegregation, pretty much forcing black people to take the stairs to go to the movie theaters, and black people can only drink from this water fountain. Those laws were still going on, because the last one was 1965. Malcolm X, 1965. Martin Luther King Jr., I think he was 68. So the 60s was definitely tough for the black people. So much so that even in the army, they're like, hey, we want you guys to have your own spot. So they gave them this old rundown shack, which they turned into like a jazz bar nightclub, pretty much like the movie Sinisters that just came out. Same idea. So this is where the black spot. And in the novel, it burns down. And also we see part of this in chapter 1 when Ben was given little history lessons after the swimming.
What's the black spot?
Black Spot was a nightclub that was burned down years ago by that racist cult.
Even in chapter 1, Mike Hanlon, he says that his father thinks his town is cursed.
My grandfather thinks this town is cursed in this town or because of one thing, an evil thing that feeds off the people of Derry.
So I want to take a step back. So with the army people, there's an army base nearby. And when we see in the trailer that there's a mist, and you see the general, and it's like, okay, is this going to be that first Stephen King connection to his other adaptation? Because I think this is going to be a big Stephen King universe, and I got 5
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5
connections so far, and this is the first one that I'm going to talk about, which is the mist. It makes sense. I mean, this is a great way to expand the universe, add this twist into this. Another interesting twist is Dick Halloran, and that's this guy right here. And of course, if you watch The Shining, that is an older Dick Halloran. He has a supernatural feeling where he can sense stuff before it happens. That is why he survives the black spot burning, because he was aware of how to get out and how to save people. And ironically, he was the cook in the black spot, and of course, he's the head chef at the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. Nice little connection there. So the black spot, it gets burned down by a white local cult. And it's more or less like the KKK. But this, I have a feeling like the police, they're involved. It's very corrupt, because this explains why the Bowers have such hate for the Hamlets, because you see that straight away, chapter 1, chapter 2. Which makes me also think Butch, he's the father of Henry. He's the one that gets killed by Henry with a knife. If he was 16 years old in 1962, that would make him 43 years old in chapter 1. Okay, I can kind of see it. But, so my question is Henry Bowers, is his father, Butch, see one of these kids that are bullying other people? I think it's very possible. I mean, this is such a family connection. But again, the Bowers, the Hanlon family, this is going to be a main focus. And really the point of view is going to be through the Hanlons. Okay, so speaking of Bowers, you see him walking out in the scene with a black guy. And he's being taken to the bus, which is the prison bus of Shawshank Redemption. The third reference. So it just keeps coming, guys. But remember this black guy, because he's going to be an introduction to one of the young characters. The young black girl. That's her father, and we're going to get into that in a little bit.
I keep seeing.
She hot?
No, Richie. She's not hot.
Alright, so now I want to talk about the timeline real quick. So this is 1962. So season 3 will be 1908. And I'm going to jump to season 3. I'll get into season 2 in a second. But 1908, which will be season 3, is going to be a big one in my opinion. That is where we get this Bob Gray character, the Drifter. And in chapter 1, we seen a picture. We saw the old lady talk about her father coming here.
My father joined the circus.
Because we get that flashback of Bill Skarsgård as Bob Gray.
You haven't changed their futures.
So we got that. We got a little Easter egg with the beer bottles. So he's everywhere. But in this new trailer, we get to see a couple more pictures. And it's really the same thing, but in the left-hand corner, you can get 908, which is 1908. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you got Cumberland County. And if you look that up, what movie does that come from? Yes, if you like vampires, Salem's Lot. So that is another reference, number 4. But this Bob Gray character, the question is Pennywise, did he come up with this character or did he steal someone's identity? I think Bob Gray was a real person, real identity, and then Pennywise took that over and stole it.
My name, right there. Sandy Bigelow Patterson. Gotcha.
And also that is where the Pennywise comes from. Because we see a bunch of these pictures of the 1908, and you got, Pennywise in the background. This is the start of Pennywise. So anything before this in, 1800s, 1700s, you will not see Pennywise. Also in 1908, in some of these pictures, we see the Easter egg hunt, which is also called the Ironworks explosion. So what happened was these kids were having an Easter egg hunt next to an old ironworks place, and it exploded. 88 kids were killed and 14 adults. But of course, Pennywise had something to do with it. Also in 1908. So I don't have it with me, but I had a casting sheet. And on the casting sheet, one of us said Young Rose 1908. So remember that. Young Rose. I will come right back to that. But also there was something for twins in the 50s and 60s, white. And of course, when you watch that one scene with Beverly Marsh going back to her apartment, I would guess, you see the twins right there on the wall. So this 1908, I really feel like we're going to have a big flashback. I got a couple pictures where I think these could be the scenes. Because it's clearly 1908, it's clearly carnival, all that good stuff. But that Young Rose, so that's really going to be the introduction with the Native Americans. Native Americans have a lot to do with Stephen King's novel. Recently, Pet Sematary had the Bloodlines. That dove heavily into Native Americans. And of course, that was in 1969, and that's in Ludlow, Maine. So Ludlow, Maine, it's the fictional town of Maine, is very close to Derry. And the 5th reference of the Pet Sematary, it's in that final scene. It's tough to make it out, but it's this kid wearing a mask, and we've seen this all the time. It could be something completely else, but I think this has something to do with Pet Sematary, which would be the 5th reference right there. Okay, so sticking with the Native Americans, we also see the Rose. She is older because the secondhand Rose, the store, that is her. That is her grown up. We hear her talking, and I have this one picture from this trailer that was leaked overseas. So you get a couple different shots or scenes you didn't see before, and one of it is the natives talking about an incident where a lot of people go missing.
7 confirmed deaths, mostly children.
So someone is having an interview with the natives about what the heck happened back in the day. And I believe they're talking about the 1908 incident. Also in that scene is Chief John Bear. He's going to be the leader. And in chapter 2, we got a really good, 5-10 minutes talking about the natives' point of view when Mike went there to talk about the ritual of Chud, which mostly the best way I can describe it is it's like forcing something to go into hibernation. You're not killing it, but you're forcing it into hibernation. Of course, that really doesn't work out. But you got a good glimpse into the natives' point of view from chapter 2, and they're going to continue that on with this series. Alright, so the rest of the timeline. Again, chapter 2, 2017, chapter 1, 1989. Season 1, 1962. Season 2, 1935. That is what I'm going to talk about right now. And really, the season 2, 1935, really the only main thing they've talked about was the Bradley gang, which is a gang that pretty much got to do like a Bonnie and Clyde type, got to do what they want. The locals, they got fed up, killed them. The chief of police was like, I'm looking the other way. And it was a lot of corruption. that is really it. You get to see like an image from chapter, I think it was chapter 1. Yeah, in the alleyway. And then a newspaper clipping. That is really it. So season 2, there's really not much so far. They might get more into it down the road. But alright, so again, season 3 will be 1908. After that, it is done. But I'm going to talk about the whole rest of the timeline. So in 1881, that is about lumberjacks. Pretty much like 4 or 5, if not more, lumberjacks found, slaughtered, hacked up in a cabin. And of course, in chapter 1, you see a few things on Ben's wall talking about lumberjacks. 1854 is about this guy named John Markson. Kills his whole family and then like eats a bunch of mushrooms. Yeah, really not much going on there, but before that, from 1773 to 1827, nothing happened. It was a ghost town. Why? Because in 1746, it killed all the settlers, 300 plus. Killed them all. They vanished. No one knows what happened to them. And 27 years before that, in 1719, that is the original settlement, and 91 goes vanished.
91 people signed the charter that made Derry, but later that winter, they all disappeared without a trace.
Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is breaking down these teasers and trailers. Because just figuring out all these pictures, that I really think I know what's going on in the first 1 or 2 episodes. So it really starts out with, so you have this kid that sneaks into the movie theater, and we later see him hitching a ride. We find out later that he doesn't make it. His friends go to the library, as you see here, trying to find information. And then later on in the trailer, you see them going there at night. I think while they're there at night, you can see them, they're clearly being attacked by Pennywise for the first time. I think that little girl dies, because you really don't see her at all after this. And the white girl that's there, she, like, you see her, she's fine, but then later on you see her with a patch over her eye. I think something happens where she gets hurt there. After that incident, that's when you see those kids here at the police station, where the police is like, let us do the investigation. Your kids, knock it off.
Keep your noses out of police business.
And then, of course, I think something happens after that, because they all lead up to the clubhouse. In the clubhouse, I'm going to talk to you about that right after this, which is really cool. But then after that clubhouse meeting, that's when they go into the sewer. And I think when they go into the sewer, that is when they get into the army base. And I think that's when it all just comes together. It just makes sense by looking at all this stuff that they give us. But that clubhouse, I want to talk about that clubhouse. It's in the miniseries, barely. It's in chapter 1. Like twice, and you never saw it, but it's called the Standpipe. It's a water tower, and it's in a lot of these scenes from the teasers and the trailer. But it's their new clubhouse. You know, chapter 1, you know, they had the thing that's underneath the ground, which they didn't reveal till chapter 2.
Maybe not what be us. I'm gonna have fun and celebrate the magic of the paddleball. Wow.
All right, other spoilers and Easter eggs I want to talk about. So they totally spoil that this kid dies. And the fact that he is Ernest, that is Stanley Ernest's family connection somehow. So that could be an uncle, because clearly if he dies, that's not his dad. So they would spoil that this kid is not going to survive long. And you can see later on when they go into the sewer, he is not part of that group. So he's not going to last long. Paul Bunyan. So we see that this is the year where they built the statue. And if you tell by this one picture, they're protesting. I don't know who's protesting or why. It could be the Native Americans, because Paul Bunyan is essentially a white North American figure. So I can see why the Native Americans are pissed off. But in the trailer, you see the white guy throwing the egg. I thought it was for the black girl at first, but no, he was throwing it at the Paul Bunyan sign. He's protesting, so it's white people. No clue, but another little Easter egg, because we saw in chapter 2. Also, I've noticed that's around there that we've been at already, and it's Jade's. We've seen it, that Chinese place in miniseries and in chapter 2, and here is right here in the trailer.
Oh, you know I got married? No. Yeah, no, me and your mom are very, very happy right now.
The Capitol Theater, we've seen the theater many times in the miniseries, chapter 1, chapter 2. Just around town, we got many images of it. The flashback with Richie, you know, the coin machine that shows that he was gay. That whole scene, because that arcade was in the movie theater. The library. The library is a big part of Derry. We've seen in the miniseries, chapter 1, chapter 2, and in this. And also we've seen that there's a trail by the train bridge. We saw it in chapter 1, chapter 2 when they're adults, and we've seen it in this teaser. And it looks like we're gonna get some kind of backstory to its origin, even though like we saw some of it in chapter 2, that Native American flashback scene. In this trailer you see it coming down, and really that is it. They're not really telling us much about it, but it's like, okay, we've kind of seen this before. I hope you add more to it later. I think this white girl, I think the one that finds the picture of Bob Gray that I talked about earlier, I think that is the same place that Beverly Marsh lives in. Because I believe when Marsh, you know, in chapter 2 went back, had that flashback scene, it's with that old lady. That's Bob Gray's daughter. Because I feel like, you know, Bob Gray's daughter, I feel like that was her place. After she died, this new young girl, her family moves in. And then that's when I believe Beverly Marsh, they move in after that. I really do, because it makes sense why she would be the one finding the album. Because it's in the same place as where he used to live, if not his daughter. And another spoiler, I mean, in a way, so we see this missing posters, and right in the middle is this girl. And it's like, that looks familiar. And she's in all the trailers, and she's in this one scene straight up. That is her. So clearly all these girls that are in this Deadlights, they die, in my opinion. I think they all die, and it's a huge spoiler. Because, I mean, she is clearly right there. Why would she be the only one that dies and everyone else survives? Doesn't make sense. Another little Easter egg I noticed. You see right there in the corner? That's Bangor, Maine. Yeah, that is the hometown of Stephen King. Just a nice little sprinkle, I thought. And lastly, what I want to talk about is possible origins of like a backstory, like the red balloon. Why red balloon? What is going on with this red balloon? I want to know the story behind this red balloon. Why did you pick red balloon? I hope we get something about that. I know we talk about the well house, the house at Nebel Street, that old broken down where they, you know, the kids get in chapter 1, chapter 2. I want an origin story with that. The Native Americans before Pennywise, like imagine what it was as in, like terrorizing the natives. That would be interesting. Hope we get a map of like not just Derry, but outside of Derry that gives us a big like Stephen King universe. That would be really dope. Because imagine like Cujo, someone taking the Cujo dog and burying it in Pet Cemetery, and that's like right around Derry. That would be awesome. But that's it, guys. That's a lot of Easter eggs, spoilers, and we got like 3 weeks before this drops. So I really hope this helps you guys have a better understanding. I hope I don't spoil too much for you guys. But yeah, that is it. Welcome to Derry, coming out October 26th, HBO Max. Until then, hope you have a good day.